This is an M-rated game, so viewer discretion is advised. Death Trick Double Blind. I love detective games, but they're one of the hardest things to get right. You have to have interesting characters, a good story, and a fun location. This has all of those things, and it gives you a lot of freedom to find clues and flesh out the story. But something just wasn't working for me. You play as two different characters. A magician who has come to the circus because her murdered friend has asked her to come in a letter that she had sent before she died. And she decides to dress up as her friend for reasons that really didn't matter in the story until the end. And it's one of those things that I really disliked. It didn't make any logical sense that she would do this. Maybe if she was trying to fool the suspects into thinking that the murdered girl was still alive in order to throw them off. But no! Every suspect knows that she's impersonating her. It's really only because the ending wouldn't make any sense if she doesn't. And that kinda sucks. You also play as a detective, who's hired by the circus owner to find out who the murderer is. The game introduces you to him as he's been robbed and stripped of all his clothes. And he's also lost a bit of his memory because of the attack. And the first part of the game is finding him some clothes, and then go investigate the crime. The owner of the circus gives you until 9 p.m. to find the murderer. If not, they have to leave and go to their next location with the circus. The gameplay is broken down to the magician talks to people, then the detective. Each character has a set number of turns you can use. It starts out at 5. You can eventually move freely between the areas of the circus, and that is not going to take up a turn. But most of the things that you will ask about will take up one of the turns that I mentioned. So you're going to need to pick and choose the best things to ask, or you might waste a turn. After the magician and the detective use up all their turns, the hour ends and you start up another one, and time will tick down until you run out. The people that you talk to were very well fleshed out. There were only 9 of them, but with the limited number of turns, it's hard to figure out what to ask. They do help you by giving you goals. If you finish your goal, you get experience points. After every 100 experience points, you permanently gain an extra turn. As the suspects answer your questions, it will add inventory of clues. Sometimes the clues have nothing to do with the murder, but more about the character's moments, or unlocking their ending. Solving the murder really comes down to who has motive and the opportunity to do it, and not so much about finding any clues as they actually did it. Sometimes these suspects' answers don't make sense with the other people's answers, and it's a contradiction. Each character has a contradiction for reasons that might have nothing to do with the murder. It might just be for personal reasons, and you're going to have to put 2 clues together and present the contradiction to them to get updated statements or new clues. The biggest issues I had were with the controls themselves. They have you press the right directional pad to investigate the area, which takes up 1 turn. But it's very easy to press that button when you're trying to scroll through the inventory. It happened to me at least 5 times, and it frustrated me every time. It wouldn't have been so bad if they didn't charge us for an area that we've already done. But no, it still counts as a turn wasted. Now, to be fair though, I did basically finish the mystery and figure out who the killer was an hour before the deadline. And I ended up wasting turns with pointless questions. So I guess they give you plenty of turns to get the job done, but they really should not have counted any question or location that you've already done. After your time limit ends, you're going to have to answer a few questions, put together a timeline, and expose the murderer. I'm not going to show you any of this because that would be totally spoiling the game. But they give you a health system, and if you lose all your health, you have to start over on the questions. So with some trial and error, you will get all the answers if you don't know them. The ending was okay. I do think it was a bit confusing at times. However, there were a few twists and turns I wasn't expecting. But overall, I do think the story was told in a very average way. And it never got me excited to keep progressing the story. This game crashed on me once, and that wouldn't have been such a big deal if it auto-saved occasionally, but it didn't save once. You have to manually save, and I was very lucky that I had saved 10 minutes earlier, so I started saving every 3 minutes because of that. Also, there was some really odd sound issues where it would skip a little when I would choose something, like it was stuttering. Now, like I mentioned in my previous review of Life is Strange Double Exposure, I think these types of games should be voiced. It brings out the emotions of the characters' moments. They did try to make some interesting interactions in the circus and in their backstories, but I think it fell flat having to read it. Even if they only put in the really important character moments, I do think it should have been voiced. Death Trick Double Blind was okay. I really didn't like how they separated the main characters, as it was confusing to remember who had which clues. The task board was very helpful to remind me what I should be working on. I liked the circus environment, and it was interesting to see the different acts that the other performers would do, even if it wasn't voiced. I would wait for this to go on sale. It had some intriguing moments. If you like murder mysteries, this is a mostly compelling one, but I would still wait for it to go on sale.